So let's get to the business end. Yeah, it's incredibly dirty. No, I don't really care. I build my cars as drivers and not show vehicles. So rock chips, paint, don't care. No, not in the slightest. What we're looking at here is, or was, a 1600 dual port. When I got it, it had 88 thin walls in it. Still does. Stock heads. So I guess it maths out to 1674 or something. Not super stoked on it. It's got the hot dog exhaust. It was a generator initially when I got it, but I've converted it over to alternator. It was a fresh rebuild, and that was my mistake for assuming that was correct. It was rebuilt, but whoever put the gland nut on ended up not torquing it, or it walked off somehow, so it ended up wiping out my crank and my flywheel. So I had to split the case, put another stock 69 crank in it. A Scat C35, still using the aluminum push rods, still using a 1.1 to 1 rocker. Dynoed it in Kelowna at 69.5 horse. Made it out there no problem. Came back no problem. Other than the throwout bearing kind of blew up because I am still relatively new to Volkswagen, so I didn't know what to look for when I was putting the engine in. And the fork was fucked. So I was, yeah, starting it in gear and floating them all the way back home. But I made it all the way to my garage. I'm also currently running dual Weber IDFs. Well, no, let's go EMPI IDF knockoffs. I know a lot of guys hate on EMPI, but I haven't had an issue yet. Mind you, I've also only put on 2,000 kilometers. And yeah, this little stupid breather here pukes oil everywhere. Yes, I do have the drain thing at the bottom of the generator or alternator stand incorrectly. I checked it 3 times before I put everything together. Cleaned up, the whole thing actually looks really nice, but currently it does not. What else have I done? 034, I'm not running vacuum advance because the MPI HPMXs do not have a vacuum port on them, so I went direct to manifold vacuum, and it ended up pulling around 34 degrees of timing, and that was a little too much for my liking and the engine's liking. Like I said, everything's running well, relatively speaking. I have no complaints. It's dead set reliable. I haven't broken anything major that I've actually had to pull over and pull out tools to fix on the side of the road. So in anticipation of doing this turbo build, I hate the hot dog mufflers. They've only come in handy once that I recall, and that was for drying out my shoes driving the buggy in a snow/rainstorm on May long 2017 going to Kelowna. So I wanted to get a merged header, and of course MP, the cheapest out there, that sprung to mind. So instead of building one from scratch, which I'm sure a lot of guys have capabilities, I currently do not, theoretically. I called up California Import Parts, or interwebs up, and got a, what did we get? Unpainted off-road exhaust. Like I said, it was cheap, guys. Cheap, cheap, cheap. And that's the whole idea behind this, because there's no way in hell I'm spending $4,000 on a turbo kit. I'm sure by the end of it I'll spend well over that, but as it currently sits, that's what I'm doing. So today was delivery day, and I got the exhaust. Now, it did have an extended pipe coming off the top. Yes, I have a very lime green living room, dining room, whatever. Deal with it. But as you can see from the pictures, the exhaust was horrendous, to say the least. A lot of slag and schmegma built up inside, so I hacked off the extension tube. Got in there with a 1.5-inch flap wheel, kind of cleaned it up a bit. Yeah, so I highly recommend that. Even if you're not going turbo, any exhaust system, just clean up the crappy welds, because these things are mass produced. I don't blame MP. I don't blame California import parts. It's just the way of the world. So we're gonna start by bucking off the old exhaust. Hooray! Feel my excitement. You can see how bad the exhaust pipes are, relatively speaking. They don't really line up with the collector. I had to beat it like a Russian mail order bride to get it off. I said I'd show it to you good, bad, or ugly, so he burned through in a few spots, which is not abnormal for me. At least not with thin metal. I'll never claim to be a full-fledged welder. I can stick metal to metal with more metal. And it sure shit ain't pretty on the outside. Let's see if that can focus. There we go. Burned through in a few spots. Again, with thin metal, not abnormal for me. When I do stick metal to metal, I like it hot. Because much like my sexual career, I prefer penetration. So, the really crappy thing about running flux core is you may as well run stick, because you gotta pull your flux off after and clean it between welds. So I got my DeWalt's drill with a flap wheel on it. It seems to clean it up pretty okay. I also got a bench grinder with a flap wheel, or flap wheel, whatever you want to call it. Wire wheel, that's the one. And it does a way better job, but it's across the shop, and my shop is atrocious right now. So I'm not walking all the way across just to clean that shit up. So I'll hit up inside here with a flap wheel, like a legitimate flap wheel, on my die grinder, and just clean up all that schmegma. As bad as that is, it's still better than the collector was when I first got it. Essentially, that's how I'm planning on doing it. I got a tail coming off here. It's going to kick down and kick back, but it's going to be no muffler. It's going to be cool, I hope. I still got to orientate my center section, because right now I got my drain kicked up and my feed's on the bottom, and that's no good for nobody. Build a air filter adapter, pressure tubes, yada yada yada.